Hello and welcome to your Saturday morning show here on Premier Injuries Live. We're here to answer all your questions ahead of the deadline. Ben, I'm going to throw it over to you. How are you doing on this Saturday and probably what is one of the most crazy ever build-ups after an international break?
Yeah, good morning, Jane. Good morning, everyone. Look, it's been a game week like no other in all of my time within fantasy sports and talking about player availability. I don't think I've ever had anything quite like what we've had over these past maybe 7 to 10 days with this international breaks. Usually, we can accept that we're contending with injuries, suspensions, players coming back late from international duty. Those players may be a little bit fatigued, but now we're having to try and troll through the minefield that is FIFA, quarantine, COVID, restrictions, pandemics, double jabbed, red list country, amber list country. The list goes on. Fortunately, common sense has prevailed. So a lot of those players that had initially been ruled out of game week 4, and I'm talking about the players who had been called up to the Brazilian squads, Peruvian, Chilean, Mexican. The Premier League has come to an agreement with those football federation, and all of those players have been released and are available to play in game week 4 after they had initially invoked the 5-day rule, which would have kept some players out of this game week, but also the Champions League matches for their respective clubs next week.
So is it true that it is as many as 122 players were possibly not going to start this weekend?
The table is fluid. It moves back and forth as we update it as news becomes available. At one point, it was as high as 123. Given that we now know that those 7, 8, 9 players are in effect available, that probably drops it down to in the region of around about 112 to 113. But of course, look, we're still just under an hour away from the deadline, and I can guarantee you, quote this, soundbite it, call me out, there will be a lot of surprises along the way, because I am 100% sure that managers, clubs, coaches, PR departments, there will be players who have not been double jabbed, who have been playing in amber listed countries and will not make this weekend's games. I can guarantee that. So expect a few curveballs. And if you still have transfers in the bank, use them wisely, because you're going to need some strength and some depth on your bench.
Let's move it into the questions. So that's why we're doing this live. That's why we're here for the community. Asaf Dijon opens up the questions with, it's on everybody's lips. You've answered it a fair few times this week, but we'll go through it one last time. What is your last verdict on Ronaldo?
Look, Ollie said nothing more than I would expect him to say ahead of the game with Newcastle. Ticking all the boxes. He's an astute character. Let's not get away from that. He's well used to being in that public eye. So when I made those comments with regards to Ronaldo earlier in the week, I think I said those initially on Monday's record, echoed on Tuesday, Wednesday. Throughout my time, nothing has changed that. When I made those initial calls, it was all based in the knowledge that, I'm pretty of sound mind, that I'm in my belief, I think Ronaldo starts on the bench. The one caveat I had was the possibility of maybe Fred missing out because of that FIFA ruling with Brazil. And that could maybe then open a spot by dropping Pogba back in there and freeing up that space on the left-hand side. Fred is now available. I just think that makes it a little bit... Look, yeah, I'm saying, but I'm going against the wave of the community here, and I'm opening up to a torrent of abuse. I know that. I know what you're saying. Is he fit enough? Yes. Are these numbers outstanding, out of this world? Yes. Has he come to sit on the bench? No. But this is his first game. United have been doing okay. I think Ollie, for me, will introduce him from the bench with a start potentially in the Champions League, and then maybe continuation of that start in game week 5. That would be my thoughts, and nothing has changed.
I mean, just to let people know, to be as transparent as possible, I've got him in my team. I've got the captaincy armband on him. That might upset you, Ben, because you're sticking with Bruno. But let's move it on to another hot topic of discussion. Dan has asked, how long is Firmino out? Missed the Crystal Palace game. And Dan has asked the second question, does Jota start against Crystal Palace?
Right, well, Jota 100% starts. I don't think that's in question, unless there are, issues around being double jabbed and this, that, and the other. But as far as the information to hand, Jota is there and will be in that Liverpool starting 11. With regards to Roberto Firmino, what we do know is, had an initial scan, that hamstring injury was not as severe as first thought. So that's the good news. The bad news is, even though he has been cleared by the Brazilian Federation, he still isn't available this weekend. Now, I'm told that Liverpool are a little bit reluctant to give any kind of definitive time frame at the moment, but we may understanding we're looking at another maybe 7 to 14 days, probably higher towards maybe 10 to 14 days before we see Firmino back. But what I would say, hamstring injuries, high recurrence rates, high re-injury rates, and Jurgen Klopp will not want to be taking any chances with the Brazilian. And of course, especially when you have the likes of Salah, Jota, and Mane, all fit in and available, it just doesn't make sense to throw them in there. So at the moment, I don't think we can count on Firmino, and it'll be a case of Jurgen Klopp managing his squad over these Premier League matches, which has been interspersed with European football.
Blonde has said, good morning all, thanks for streaming, thanks for joining us, it's a pleasure to be with you today. Michael O'Connor has asked, Son, Ings and Wilson out, Lukaku, DCL and Sarr in. I mean, I like this question a lot, but Ben, you start off with proceedings.
I mean, yeah, look, it seems an obvious choice. Obviously, there's injury doubts with regards to those players that you've taken out. I'm assuming you're maybe doing that for a -4 and not a -8. The -4 makes sense. I wouldn't be as confident if it was a -8 move. And again, I refer to what I said at the top of the show. This is going to be a hugely complex game week to try and navigate. And what I wouldn't want managers to be doing is making too many unnecessary changes, taking a hit, when ultimately, there may be those 1 or 2 players who drop out, which we haven't picked up on, which haven't been announced, and that's going to leave you with, maybe 9 or 10 players starting and a hit. So like I say, keep changes down to a minimum. I understand the Wilson, we're talking at least a few weeks with him and other injury, but if you don't have to change players, and this goes for every manager across every format, don't do it in game week 4.
In terms of the situation there, though, for Michael, Son, Ings, Wilson out, but then Lukaku's not 100%, is he? DCL isn't 100%. It's a risky move. I really like, just personally, I'm going to quickly say this and then throw it back to you on Lukaku, DCL. I like the Sarr move. If people haven't watched our video with Lynn at the start of the week, her and I actually have a head-to-head Traore versus Sarr over the next coming weeks until the next international break. I just think that he's so damn good. 34 minutes per chance created, 8 chances created in total. I'm just not sold on Wolves at the moment, but we'll see how it goes over the next few weeks. I think they're both really good picks, Traore and Sarr, but I went for Sarr instead of Traore. But yeah, Lukaku, DCL, I mean, are they risky transfers to bring in this game week, especially if you're doing a -4 hit?
2 points. The first one, I'm going to refer to Thomas Tuchel during Friday's press conference with Chelsea. And of course, one of the first questions, top of the agenda, how was Romelu Lukaku? The manager, now, he always seems to come across as a guy who speaks his mind. He's not really a Pep. There doesn't seem to be a lot of smoke and mirrors. So when asked directly about Romelu Lukaku, he straight back that he may have had a problem in Belgium, but he's come back and he's trained the last 2 days absolutely fine. Now, that to me suggests that he's either A, lying and he's trying to cover something up, or secondly, like I say, it was a bit of a nothing. And I'm leaning towards the latter. Lukaku himself talked about this niggling thigh problem that he wanted to get checked before he flew back to London, said he had been playing on with it. So again, look, he's a high status, high profile player for Chelsea. Yes, they've got Champions League game. Will his minutes be managed? Quite possibly. Look, if Chelsea go 3, 4, 5 up, then why not bring him off? Maybe bring Werner on to try and give him a boost of confidence, get a couple of goals. But the way Romelu Lukaku has come in to the Premier League and returned to Chelsea, hit the ground running, he could quite easily return and bang with limited minutes anyway. Second, DCL. Again, there's a couple of points I'd like to pick up here. First and foremost, Rafa made no reference to DCL despite the striker's withdrawal from the England squad. Now, we know he's been managing an ongoing toe problem, and we know he's forced off against Brighton due to tightness in his quad, and he's the front aspect of his thigh. We expected that to be fairly high on the agenda, but there was nothing there, no question. Now, again, there's always two things you can look at this. First and foremost, is he trying to cover something up? Is he trying to hide an injury? Secondly, we have seen DCL on the training pitches and not just working individually. We've seen him in the group taking part in full sessions. He hasn't been holding back. He's been getting down and dirty with the rest of the players. Now, again, that's a very good indication that any lingering doubts with regards to injuries have been, you can overlook that. What I would say, we obviously have at least 2 more sessions for Everton as they don't play until Monday against Burnley. So he's still got to come through Saturday and Sunday. But as it currently stands, I think those 2 players are solid picks.
Okay, so we've got a lot of questions about Son. Is he 100% out, Ben?
100% out? Nobody is ever 100% out until I have eyes on those team sheets. So what we're doing, we're reading between the lines with Nuno, and we're trying to understand what is going on, the mechanism of injury. So take the reports from Korea first and foremost with a pinch of salt. A lot of those reports can get lost in translation. It was a reporter that Son trained last Saturday, reported discomfort in his calf. Followed that up on the Monday, again, pain in his calf. I think it was his left calf. Enough so, suffice to say, that the Korean FA said we pulled him from the game as a precaution. Now, all well and good. That suggests that it wasn't too good. Fast forward, Son flies back into London. He's been assessed at the time of Nuno's press conference. Nuno comes out. He said it doesn't look very good. That in itself indicates that Son will not be available for game week 4, although he's very reluctant to give any kind of time frame. Of course, if he was being assessed, then they'll want to know the full extent of the problem before announcing anything official. What we do know, Son, a fairly robust player who can tolerate the demands of the game. He's not a player that tends to get injured quite a lot. Very few muscle and soft tissue injuries throughout his time at Tottenham. So even if he is injured, it would suggest that he should hopefully, bounce back fairly quickly. And secondly, like I say, just the mechanism of the actual injury itself and the quick turnaround, even minor report of tightness, a slight strain, given the fact that we're talking maybe 5-6 days, plus that travel between different time zones, different environments, different climates. Even if Son was feeling pretty much okay, the question would be, is he going to be risk? And I would have to say no at this point in time. It doesn't make any sense with other options available at Nuno, although, of course, I know they have picked up a few injuries over the break.
TF has asked the question, I know it's about Son again, but I think it's an important point to kind of address this. They've asked any leaks about Son joining the trip to Crystal Palace. So I've seen people on Twitter post that he travelled with the team and could actually start, but not strong sources. I'm going to say my piece, but I'm sure you'll say something similar as well. I never trust these in the know sources. There's very few people. Ben, you're one of the best, if not the best person who would possibly even get some sort of information like this, and you always refrain from any sort of this. It's got to be 100% truth or not, and I think a lot of people post on Twitter to get eyeballs, to get followers, and that there's no real truth behind it. They're just playing guesswork, aren't they, Ben?
Look, I'm with you, Jay, definitely with that. And when it comes to the rumour mill, everything's sort of muted for me. And look, even if he is travelling with the squad, all well and good, he might want to be with his teammates, support the boys, be in the change rooms. It could be even a ploy from smoke and mirrors from Nuno. We just don't know. He doesn't want to show his hand maybe too early. All I can do is make a judgment, an assessment based on what we know with regards to the injury itself and what Nuno said. And that, for me, indicates that Son is highly unlikely to feature, and we're just waiting for some kind of time frame to understand the extent of the injury.
Faisal Adham, I hope I've said that right, has asked, I'm thinking really to captain Jota. What do you think? I mean, this one is a very differential pick out there. My reluctancy with that is Leeds are very good at home at Ellen Road. I do think that Liverpool will score. I think it'll be a tight game though. And I just back Salah because he's got the more likelihood of output. He's on penalties. He's got a lot more opportunities, whereas Jota is just limited to open play kind of setups. He is fantastic, brilliant finisher, one of the best in Europe, but I just don't back him in this game as a captaincy pick. It's a little bit too rich for me. I'd go for Salah, but even then, I think that there's a few other captains. I mean, we've covered this in our captaincy video. What do you think, though, Ben?
Yeah, look, it is a risky punt. And the concern for me is Leeds are going to make things very difficult for Liverpool. I don't see it necessarily being a high-scoring affair. I do think Liverpool will score. I agree with you, Jason. But maybe, it could end up just maybe a 1-1, possibly a 2-2. And you're just limited there with Jota. Ellen Road will be absolutely jumping. Dan James could come in for his debut. Rafinha has been cleared. So, Leeds will have a good side out. They will be strong and they will be up for this. And of course, Patrick Bamford, brimming with confidence, buzzing after his England call-up. So, look, this isn't going to be a walk in the park for Liverpool.
So, Beric has asked the question, who would you pick, DCL or Jimenez, as safer?
In terms of just playing, everybody's getting drawn towards Wolves in this so-called fixture swing. I mean, they're playing teams in and around them, but ultimately the underlying data, they've still got to perform and deliver that. It's still a little bit of a risky punt. And we still don't know 100% where Raul Jimenez is in terms of his psychological, physiological space, following that horrific injury. The safe bet would almost, I'll go with Everton and DCL. They've got some nice games coming up, and he's going to be, the focal point of that Everton attack with the likes of Townsend and Gray on the wings, putting lots of crosses in the box with Digne. I think, DCL will benefit from that.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game to watch. Let's move on to the next question, though. There's still quite a few people asking about Son, Ronaldo. We've covered those. Somebody again asking about Jota, giving him the armband. The next question is Ellis Lawson, DCL or Richarlison? Who is more nailed?
Well, I think they're both nailed, in actual fact. The great news is obviously Richarlison did not join up with the Brazilian national team, and he was cleared to remain there. He had permission, so there wasn't any doubt that he would be involved this weekend, which means that, after his summer of the Olympics and with Copa America, he's had an opportunity to recharge his batteries. And also, I know he'd be very keen to repay the faith and the confidence shown in him by Rafa Benitez. So it wouldn't surprise me if we do see Richarlison kick on during this block period of 4 games. Like I say, he came back into those opening fixtures and he has looked good and he has looked strong. But, with this time just to sort of ease back, recharge his batteries, re-energize himself, I think he could have a good block of games. And look, DCL is probably the standout and the go-to for most people. But Richarlison, I see him as a nice differential pick.
Yeah, you love a Richarlison pick, actually. I remember you had him at big stretches last year. He is a really good player. I like DCL in terms of, obviously, the penalty taking, but he is very out there as well, Richarlison. Faisal has asked another question saying, Captain Lukaku against Aston Villa since that Emi Martinez will not play. It's a brave one. It's a good one. The only kind of reservations that I have about that is Aston Villa have had a fairly good defence so far this season, but then you question who have they been playing. They've got the second best XG conceded behind Manchester City over those first 3 games of the season. But again, have they really had anybody test them too much apart from maybe that Watford game? And then, yeah, Emi Martinez is not there. He had 3 goals prevented in terms of XG last season. You can't overestimate the quality of that keeper's presence in the side. His absence will be very, very felt. And then there's quite a few question marks over people in the team as well. We know that Buendia will not be playing, and I guess, is there any updates on Konza as well, Ben?
There hasn't been any updates from Konza. The only word that we had from Dean Smith was post-match last time out against Brentford. He spoke about that Konza was looking okay. Doctors still need to be assessing, but he was walking fine. Take that with a pinch of salt. I ruptured my ACL, and for the large part during that initial phase, I was actually walking fine, albeit in a little bit of pain. What we do know is Konza has been spotted on the training pitches. His left knee has been taped, both in the medial aspect, so that's the inner part of the knee, which fits with the initial diagnosis that it was an MCL problem, and also with taping all around that. So we don't actually know. We've never seen him with the group, so we don't know if Konza is 100% and fully fit. We'll assume or we'll hope that he is. If he isn't, it could be Axel Tuanzebe that comes in alongside Tyrone Mings.
And with that captaincy choice then with Lukaku, are you fairly confident on that one?
2 games this weekend, 2 standout games to me before a ball is even kicked. Manchester United and Chelsea. The only concern and worry that I might have is they looked so good that they can only disappoint. I hope not, because Lukaku and Bruno are my 2 captaincy choices, and I'm happy to go with either one. I think, like I say, the way Chelsea have been playing against a very poor Aston Villa team who are missing some key players, look, I'm expecting both Bruno and Lukaku to get at least a goal and an assist.
I'm sad that you've not mentioned Ferran Torres. I think he's another standout pick as well. The mismatch between Leicester and Man City, I think that's a huge one this weekend. Maybe if Ferran Torres doesn't start, could be a good Grealish week to captain him, because even though Man City are away, even though Leicester are a top side, I just think that they've got too many problems at the moment, and they've had problems for a while as well, especially defensively. So I think I'm going to throw Torres into the hat there. But Lukaku, like you said, I echo everything. Lukaku looks so good against Aston Villa. Fernandes or Ronaldo, brilliant as well. And then Mavs Mixers has actually asked a kind of a related question. Ronaldo or Lukaku, they can't decide.
Lukaku, there you go, I'll decide for you. I'll go back to the top of the show. I don't think Ronaldo will start. Look, I'm opening myself up for a hell of a lot of grief. Just because I don't think you start doesn't mean that I won't think you get on the score sheet. Even if he gets 2 minutes on that pitch, Ronaldo will be a threat. Fingers crossed, and I'm very hopeful that he doesn't, obviously, against my hometown club. But I just think Lukaku looks more nailed in terms of attacking returns this game week.
There you go. Pierre Dunno has asked, they've already asked about Firmino. We've covered that already. We've covered DCL. Alan Lee has asked Ben Chilwell or Alonso starting.
It has to be Alonso for me. And this is conversations that we've had on previous podcasts. There's a couple of reasons. Yeah, I mean, long term, I still see Ben Chilwell as the number 1 at Chelsea, but his involvement at the Euros, he's coming back. That lack of fitness, sharpness, conditioning, He just hasn't got the minutes in his legs. And, coupled with that, Marcus Alonso has been great. He fully deserves his place in that starting 11. Champions League comes along. That provides a great opportunity for Thomas Tuchel to get Ben Chilwell involved, get him some minutes, and he can rotate the two fullbacks between the Premier League and cup competitions between now and the next international break. But for me, in the Premier League at this moment, it's Marcus Alonso. Now, I know Jason doesn't agree with me.
Yeah, but you're the expert, so I'm not going to say my piece.
Yeah.
But I will say that I just think that Tuchel likes Chilwell, and Tuchel hasn't mentioned that he's a meritocracy, whereas Pep Guardiola has. But I just don't trust either of them. I don't trust Pep or Tuchel, so it's another one that's a bit too risky for me. I want players that are going to start, especially during this crazy period that we just don't know if certain players are going to be in or out. I wouldn't take that risk at the moment. Gronfick has asked that they sound quite desperate here, so Ben, you have to answer this question for them. Will Emil Smith-Rowe start? News on Emil Smith-Rowe, please. And with a crying emoji as well. I mean, is there any clear news on that one?
There is clear news because I spoke to the club yesterday afternoon. Newsflash. So the official line, Emil Smith-Rowe and Said Kolasinac had both completed full training and are available for Mikel Arteta. Also, new signing, Takehiro Tamiyasu, if that's right, has got his paperwork and permits all completed, and he is available and in contention if Mikel Arteta so wishes. Will Emil Smith-Rowe start? Now, that is the big question. We'll see, if there's any reaction overnight. It's always difficult with illness. There could be a little bit of fatigue, a little bit of lethargy in the legs this morning. That will be checked. Providing everything is 100%, this is how I would foresee that Arsenal front line going into this weekend's game. It would be a 4 of Aubameyang as that central striker, and then sitting in behind Saka, Smith-Rowe, and Ødegaard. That would be my 3. Now, that would be the 4 that I would go with. Bear in mind if everybody is 100%. But like I say, the good news is Smith-Rowe has trained with the group on Friday.
With these questions here, Buffy Amit Yalaz has asked the question about Seamus Coleman. Any more news on him?
Good news, pulled up with a hamstring problem for the Republic of Ireland last week and returned to Finch farm early to have that assessed. Fortunately, it doesn't look to be as serious as first thought, and he is expected to train over the weekend. Now, again, hamstring injuries, we need to tread very carefully here. But if he could come through Saturdays and Sundays sessions without any reaction, without any niggle, then he will be in that starting 11 against Burnley.
So let's move it on to Tiger 15. Kane without Son strengthens his captaincy potential, or the other way. I mean, for me, I think Kane, it doesn't really matter. He transcends fixtures. He doesn't need a good teammate. He can, just do everything himself. And the interesting thing as well is we've obviously seen the transition of Kane from just an out-and-out striker to now he's a link-up player as well. He's both creative midfielder and striker. And so I think the thing is, with the good players that Tottenham have up front, he can assist them, but then they can assist him as well. He's going to be running, making important kind of, there's a new kind of XG data set, expected threat, and Harry Kane is so good with his progressive passes, he always ranks highly on expected threat. So I think it doesn't matter for Kane. And yeah, his captaincy potential is there against Crystal Palace. What do you think, though, Ben?
Yeah, Harry transcends fixtures, transcends teammates, transcends forms. Look, he can deliver against any opposition, against any day, regardless of who he's playing with. So, look, it's always nice to have Heung-min Son in that Tottenham attack. He occupies another defender, potentially freeing up 1 or 2 extra yards for Harry Kane. But ultimately, does it matter a great deal? Probably not. Harry Kane, if you have an opportunity to captain him, then do it. You cannot knock the big man. he's one of England's all-time greatest strikers, in my opinion.
Isatak Hossein has asked, thanks for the Sun clarification. Do you guys think that Chimkas is going to start? And also, who is going out for James, Harrison or Rodrigo?
I looked at this Leeds lineup this morning, and I did struggle, to be honest. It was a toss-up between the two. I left Harrison in and I took Rodrigo out. We obviously assuming that Dan James comes into that team. So, yeah, it was Rodrigo who just misses out for me. However, like I said, there may be one or two curveballs along the way with players returning from international duty. So, watch this space with that one.
And with the Chimkas situation, do you think he's going to start for Liverpool?
Chimkas. Tsimikas, man. Jesus Christ, it's your pronunciation. I had no idea who you're talking about. Chimkas. Nah, Tsimikas, right. I've heard of these rumours with regards to him starting ahead of Andy Robertson. And I dealt these with a straight bat last time. You pick your best starting 11 in the Premier League. There is no hiding. There's a defeat just around the corner. So Jurgen Klopp can't afford to take any chances. And yes, Tsimikas had that good period during Andy Robertson's absence. But for me, I just think Andy Robertson has to start. You don't overlook what went on in the previous 2 or 3 seasons. And again, we're talking about a player. They talk about how he's been away with Scotland and he's had minutes. Andy Robertson's done that week in and week out, all of his career, throughout his time at Liverpool. He very rarely misses a game. So any question marks with regards to anything like that, then there is no worry. So Robertson gets the nod.
I mean, is this not a situation where you say Chimkas, I say Timkas, we all know?
No, it's the situation where your pronunciation is wrong and I didn't have a clue who you're talking about.
John Story's actually given a suggestion of calling him Mamakas.
Bennett! Yeah. Big John. Big John's a big fan of the show, a good friend of mine. So I have to be very, very careful what I say if John Story's watching, because we are involved in 1 or 2 little side bets. Oh. We have a couple of little mini leagues going on. So I need to keep my cards close to my chest. Otherwise, I'm giving them all the crown jewels here.
Well, we'll end the stream right now then, so that now that we know that he's joined, we'll get out of here. No, we'll keep going. OHD said, thoughts on a Greenwood cap? I mean, that is audacious.
On form, deserves his place in that United front line. The only concern is where Mason Greenwood will actually start. I think he does come into that 4 as it is a central strike role, possibly. But you do have Cavani available as well. You could put Ronaldo in there, and that means he drops back and he sits probably beside a Bruno. And is he as effective? Maybe not. Look, as a 1 week punter, for me, Greenwood's time is limited now as is, in terms of his minutes. I think gone, or he's locked in 90 minutes play. The threat of those attacking players who are coming into full fitness and the addition of Ronaldo and further down the line, Marcus Rashford, are all going to have an impact. It's how Ollie decides to manage his squad with the Premier League and with European football. But look, if you're going to do it with Mason, why not do it against Newcastle? Because, we have a porous defence.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to actually captain him. When you think about it, he's probably one of the only ones. And we were kind of saying this with the captaincy video as well, that there's a lot of good choices. But when you drill down as well, that they're all kind of equal for different reasons. Greenwood, he's not carrying an injury like Lukaku. He might start, whereas Ronaldo might not. There's a lot of positives to it, and he's certainly in fantastic form as well. And one other thing that I found interesting with the Greenwood situation as well is people keep saying he's overperforming XG, he can't maintain it. But if you look at his shot map, he is ridiculously good. He overperformed in his first season at the club, and I just think that he's a really, really good striker. He shoots the ball in the areas of the goal where the goalkeeper just can't get to it. He's a bit like Son. Heung-min's son does the same. So watch this space, but I think that he can keep up some sort of high level of overperformance over XG. The D production has asked Diaz or Shaw long term. If I said Diaz, you probably wouldn't know who the hell I was talking about. Again, I'm just here to confuse you, aren't you? Aren't I? I like Shaw because of Ronaldo. Really good opportunity. Ronaldo is probably the best header of the ball in the game, maybe in the game's history. Diaz has probably got more clean sheet ability. So I would go for the more fun attacking option. But what one would you go for, Ben?
I mean, if you're looking to nail down somebody in Pep's backline, it would probably be Ruben Diaz. He's the nearest thing we've got to a certain starter. Yes, he maybe is not as glamorous as some. Is he going to offer the attacking returns of others? No. But what's his bread and butter? Keeping clean sheets, and that's what City do. So I like that from that respect. With regards to Luke Shaw, look, I think United are almost going down the route of the Kevin Keegan, the entertainers and Newcastle's. We can go out and we can blow teams away with our offensive players on the pitch. And even though United have brought in Varane, I still think they're a little bit suspect at the back. We've seen improvements from De Gea. Is he the keeper that he once was? Certainly not. And therefore, I think that the reliance on Luke Shaw getting you points is going to come down to those offensive returns. And will he get those week in and week out? Maybe not. So I'm going to go. I'm known for my Maverick pick and the differential choice. So for this reason, I might surprise a few and say I'm leaning towards Ruben Diaz.
I mean, it does make a lot more sense in terms of the classic way to play Fantasy Premier League. We both kind of say all the time the bread and butter of a defender is the clean sheets, and Man City are going to get a load this season, whereas I'm not. I share the same reservations, but I don't know. I'm going with a more fun pick of Shaw, but I think probably logically yours is probably better. And Geo Boys has explained it very well. You are differential Ben. The actual title, Geo, is differential dinner. It's going to be trademarked. It's going to be out there. In terms of the questions, Ahmed has asked, how long do you think Wilson's injury is for?
Steve Bruce is reluctant to give any kind of definitive timeline. What we do know is training away from the main group at the moment, gym-based activities. It is hoped that he could potentially return to the training pitches and will start working outside by the end of next week. Given what we know at this point, it could be maybe 2 to 3 weeks potentially before Callum Wilson is back in first team contention.
Let's move it on to Gassen Tasuni's question. Who is in goal for Aston Villa then?
That's a great question. That is a Jed Steer. I have actually done my predicted lineup. We're all live here, Jesus Christ! But I'm sure it's Jed Steer would be the go-to for Villa. I will have to check, mate.
Yeah, Jed Steer is the only one in Fantasy Premier League. He's a 4.0, so
there you go. Jed Steer's your man, and that's off the top of my head. So yeah, Jed Steer, 100% locked in.
Great knowledge there from you, Ben. Podna. Again, my pronunciations are off today. Huge apologies to anybody if I've murdered your name. They've asked, sorry if I've missed it, if it was earlier. You haven't missed it. We haven't talked about it yet. What about Ricardo Pereira?
Ricardo Pereira, yeah, I'm presuming you mean the hamstring injury which forced him off at Carrow Road back in game week 3. It was the assist, I think, for Jamie Vardy's opener where he overstretched and that caused a problem. Thankfully, he's back on the training pitches. He trained well on Thursday. No reports of any kind of reaction. So again, as long as he came through Friday's session without any issues, he will be certainly back in contention for Brendan Rodgers' side.
And we've kind of talked about our reservations over Leicester as well. So I'm not sure if you want to play him against Man City this week. Gronthik has asked another question about Arsenal players. I don't know if they're like an Arsenal fan like me. Although I don't know if they're a reserved Arsenal fan like me, because I wouldn't be playing any Arsenal players in my team at the moment. But they've asked best midfield pick from Arsenal at the moment. I mean, it has to be Saka, doesn't it? He's so good, he's so creative, and I think he's got the sixth highest predicted points for this game week as well. So if you're going to go for one, go for him. He's got so much attacking potential. Ben?
Look, I'll bow down to your superior Arsenal knowledge with regards to the data. Nothing really appeals to me in terms of anybody from that Arsenal midfield. It's very much a sit back and a watch to see how these players, one, reintegrate back into the team. Of course, the return of Thomas Partey will be a boost. We really need to see Mikel Arteta's side stand up now. No more excuses, no more injuries. A squad more or less at full strength. So this is an important block of games. If Arsenal don't produce in these next four, then for me, Arteta has to go.
It's a big call. I think I agree with you with the Arteta situation, but yeah, it's a hard one. Let's move on to the next question, though. Faisal might be sent by your friend John Story because they've asked, Ben, just tell us who your captaincy pick is.
My captaincy pick at the moment, well, I alluded to before, we're looking at Lukaku or Bruno. I really do want to go Lukaku, but because everybody's steaming into CR7, that's leaning me towards Bruno. Just, for one last hurrah. Ollie spoke about who would be on penalties, and again, he wouldn't give any kind of definitive answer. So it could be those spot kick responsibilities maybe shared. And while everybody's expecting Bruno to just wither away and die and disappear, he won't become a bad player overnight. You'll throw the stat that 44% of his goals last season came from the spot. But look, I'm not giving up hope that he will still have that facet to his game. And also, there will be slight tweaks to how he plays, the formation. And ultimately, that could be bigger and better returns for Fernandes.
So we got to wrap it up now because we're getting so close to that deadline. So everybody make sure you're sorting out your teams. We don't want you, I'm sure you're enjoying all the chat here, but we don't want you to miss out doing any of your captaincy, doing any of your transfers, and make sure to keep all that information in mind. Michael O'Connor has said Rio has tweeted Ronaldo is starting. I've had a look and all he says is wakey, wakey, it's happening. Well, I think, that could mean that he is playing at some point, which is exactly what Ole has said through the week. He's probably teasing it just as much as anybody else. Really nice message there from Jamheat. Greetings from Kyoto, Japan. I mean, it's great to see that we've got a global audience. Thank you for everybody for tuning in today. Just one last point though, Ben. We've had this discussion through the video. Sexy Carl, I don't know if you can see the message up there. He said it's pronounced Tismikas. Hope that's correct.
Kiss me, cat. That'll do me. Kiss me, cat.
Kiss me, cat, or Mama Cass. Now you'll know whenever I'm talking absolute cobblers, saying kiss me, cat. And Alyssa D'Souza, we've already talked about Ferran Torres. I love him. I think he's fantastic, and Leicester could get a real rollicking from Man City today. But that is all for today. We fitted in one last question there. I'm going to wish everybody the best of luck. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well, because we've got so much good content through the week. We've got Dr. Raj, we've got great guests, we've got Lynn FPL coming on regularly now. We enjoyed her presence so much that she's going to be a fellow co-host going forward. And yeah, there's a lot of great content planned as well. I don't want to give away too much, but we've got some really stellar guests planned as well over the next few weeks. But for now, the best of luck. I'm going to throw to Ben, and we're going to end right here, right now.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for following. Great audience this morning. Loads of tremendous questions. Good luck for Game Week 4. I've got a feeling we're all going